Assalamualaikum. My name is Raihana. I am the Deputy Director at the Center for Teaching and Learning, Center for Teaching and Curriculum Development at UKM. With us, we have Dr. Harwati Hashim, the Head of Undergraduate Program for the Teaching of English as a Second Language at the Faculty of Education. She has a lot of different accolades to her name. Among others, including Apple Teacher, the coveted Apple Teacher, and as well as these are some of her area of interest. She's an EdTech enthusiast, mobile learning practitioner, a certified Apple Teacher, as I said, senior lecturer at the Center for Teaching and Learning Innovation, Faculty of Education, University Kebangsaan Malaysia. Her area of interest, her area of speciality include mobile assisted language learning, as well as technology enhanced language learning. So, based on her own area of speciality and interest, you can see that technology is an important aspect of her teaching and learning. And today's topic is really a fun topic to kind of even just say out loud. Keep calm and Quaranteach, a shift in mindset in the new paradigm. So, Dr. Harwati, without further ado, the platform is yours. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Associate Professor Dr. Raihana. I would refer to as Dr. Rai. Thank you so much. I'm honored to be invited as one of the session today. And when Dr. Rai first approached me and invited me, I think that we have been having enough pressure of having this crisis. I think being a whole in our home itself is already a pressure. What more when we talk about teaching and learning? And that's why the idea of having this topic, keep calm and quarantine, is actually reflecting of myself. Even though, as you mentioned, I am a technologist. I mean, I am more of technology, but I myself have sort of this panic experience when it comes to shifting my own mindset and also making transition of teaching and learning from we have done online learning, we have done learning, flip learning, you name it before, but when it comes to totally 100% online, or I refer as Quaranteach, is experience. So with that, I would like to share this topic, and I think it is very important whereby we need to have a shift in mindset first in dealing with this new. And thank you. I am a senior lecturer at the Faculty of Education. I am handling the undergraduate TESOL program, and I am now attached to the Center for Teaching and Learning Innovation. And a lot of people think that I am mobile person. I am actually a TESOL lecturer, or you can just name me as a cikgu BI ke kan. So I am in the end a teacher. And so, well, I think it's a bit laggy.
It's okay.
All right.
It's all right.
So it comes pandemic crisis, or MCO. When it first started, and at that moment, teaching process had to be implemented online. Well, we do have our own poll, but being a teacher, so I have my own poll myself. So can all participants participate in my survey? I just want to know, when MCO started and teaching and learning had to be done online, how did you react? Which one is you? Which one are you? Which one reflect your emotion? Is a B person, B person, or D person? And I would appreciate if you go to menti.com and use this code. I suggest you use different device for you to try to answer using this code 320632. I hope everyone is able to open. Can it be open, Dr. Rai?
Try now. Try now.
Right.
Yeah, you
Okay.
can. Now it's just how to choose A, B, C, or D.
To this, um, which one reflects your emotion at that time? I mean, are you an A person? Are you B person? Are you C person? Or are you, sorry, I have only female character, but it doesn't show that I am a gender biased person. So for male, don't worry, you choose any of emotions or emoticons for you to respond to my question. So if I have to check the answer,
Yeah.
okay, so if you to reflect C person, okay, a lot of thinking going on. I can see that a lot of thinking going on. Very little with the peace emoticon, which means you are very calm. You just chill. Okay, I'm okay with either online, whatever. And then very little of you say the B person is the panic person.
Right.
Most those with well thinking perhaps how to do it. How am I supposed to handle this? Are the students ready? Am I ready? So a lot of questioning going on. And question actually, if you were to look at the second question, if you can just have a little bit more information of why you have that kind of reaction when MCO first started. Can you please share with me? This is like a word cloud, so I hope that it is for you to answer.
Just the word.
Yeah, you can have like three answers, and then it will come out as a word cloud. So basically, some say you can be more productive. Working from home is rather productive. Some people would rather say that being at home is more productive, and some the screen is not working here. How do you see it on the Dr. Rai? How do you see it on the screen now?
It's still blank.
Is it moving, the word cloud?
Yes. Yes, it is. It is.
Okay, so we can see, we'll say, I can be a better teacher, materials to be prepared. Okay, students understanding, I agree. Well, some would say you're taking this opportunity to learn new skills. Some would very positive think that it is very significant. Well, a lot of answer here, but most are very positive, I would say. So only a few, I would not say negative, but I would say challenges that or constraints that you are not the only one. Everyone is having the same constraints. So let's go through this together. So, all right, I have another picture to share. Just a little bit of uh, funny, I think. This is like a real scenario at home. If you have kids teaching, it's not just about your students, it's not just about you yourself dealing with the teaching and learning, but also dealing what you have at home. As you have to work from home and you have children to take care of, and then you have few things. You are changing heads and everything, right? Okay. So there is a very important note that why that we have to keep calm and continue to teach. And to do that, we have to have a shift in mindset. And I think that's quite a long introduction. But what I want to share with everyone today is these three things. which is the need to look back at the TPACK model, and then to actually understand what is emergency remote teaching, and then what are the tools that are important that you need to know as an educator to make learning meaningful. And it's not just learning, but it is now it becomes another challenge, which is to make online learning meaningful. So, okay, so these are the three topics, and based on the poll just now, the third one, yeah, Dr. Rai, is the top most preferred topic chosen by the participant. And I do understand that because now it's more of in time digital tools that you need to know in order for you to implement your teaching and learning. But however, as an academic, as an educator, I always believe looking at the fundamental guideline of how we improve ourselves. And why I want to touch on TPACK model. I think some of you would be familiar with TPACK model, but it is not just TPACK itself, but the importance of unpacking the TPACK model. Why do we have to unpack? Because usually we refer TPACK model when we train. Those days when we were in teaching training, probably a few years, many years, but it is high time for us to unpacking the TPACK model, because we ourselves need to reflect our own skills as educator or as academician. So that's why I what I want to touch today is unpacking the TPACK model, and some would know what is TPACK model, and some would never heard of it. I'm not sure, but perhaps you can just put in the chat box if you are the expert. I think there are many experts in this room, this virtual room, so you can also share your opinion on this. And why I think TPACK model is very important, again, as an educator, we need to look back on three aspects, which are on the technological knowledge. We need to look back our pedagogical knowledge, as well as we need to look back at our content knowledge. So these three elements are currently very important for us to reflect in order for us to have an effective and teaching and learning. And if you were to agree with me, at first there was a content. Okay, fine. Everyone knows your content very well. Then there came pedagogy. Okay, fine. Perhaps we know our pedagogy. We know what best to teach our content. And now, because of this pandemic, the technology won't go away. You cannot run away from using the technology. And therefore, I believe unpacking the TPACK is very important. We do have content, we do have perhaps pedagogy, but what need to be reflected in the pedagogy element for TPACK is another things that we need to consider. And of course, we cannot run away from using the technology. Okay, is everything okay so far, Dr. Rai?
Yep. Yep.
Okay. So what is TPACK? TPACK is a useful model for educators as they begin to use digital tools and strategies to support teaching and learning. And it was actually designed around the idea that content, what you teach, and pedagogy, how you teach, must be the basis for any technology that educators plan to use. So therefore, it has to have like a map in between, or we call it as a Venn diagram. So this is how actually TPACK is presented in a form of diagram. So I'm not sure if this is your first time seeing it, or perhaps you have seen this many times, but we may have forgotten to reflect ourselves according to TPACK. So if we were to reflect on these three main elements of TPACK, where are we? Are we at technological knowledge? Are we at pedagogical knowledge? Are we at content knowledge? Or perhaps what important is if we improve ourselves in the area of technological pedagogical knowledge, meaning that know the technology, but what pedagogy would suits according to that technology that we have chosen. That is very important, because we keep saying that I have done this, I have done that, but in the end the students are not learning. So we have to reflect on our technological pedagogical knowledge that it refers to skills developed by educators to identify the best technology to support a particular pedagogical approach. So it is very important for us to have that element that overlap between technological knowledge and pedagogical knowledge. And another important element is that the technological and content knowledge itself, whereby it is a skills that required by educators to identify the best technology to support students as they learn. So we have the content. So what will be the technology that is suitable to teach that content? So that is the area that overlap between technology and content. The other one is the pedagogical content knowledge, which is knowledge about the content and how to teach the specific content. This is the overlap area between pedagogical and content. So among all these three, what most important is that reflect ourselves, the one in the middle. The essential part is that how do we increase our skills, or how do we reflect ourselves that we could improve in terms of the overlapping of these all elements in essential part of TPACK. So I believe that by reflecting this, we can add to say weakness to be improved as an educator ourselves. So that is very important, because sometimes we think that we know, but when we try to reflect ourselves and try to locate in that state, so we know which one that need to be improved in that sense. Okay, so allow me to continue. So an educator needs to have a perfect command over the teaching content, know pedagogy best in situation, and also what technology to choose so that students learn meaningfully. That what most important. So that's why I think unpacking the TPACK is very important. And again, I would like to highlight, as an educator, you need to have a perfect. You need to identify which element that needs to be improved on. I name it content, name it pedagogy, or name it technology. So those are the three elements.
Dr. Hawa, just to check, is the screen, is there something missing, like the page before? There's something missing. There's like a. If you go back to the page before, is there something missing on the page? Is it being shown?
Yeah, I think this is due to connection, perhaps. Is this
Now it's showing. Now it's showing, because just now the "Are you ready" part, it's not completely showing. Okay, all right, cool.
So
Okay, cool.
again, allow me to highlight again that as an educator, you need to have a perfect command over the teaching content. Number one, which pedagogy is best in any situation. Name it either online learning, blended learning, remote learning, or some would say I of this pedagogy for, and then also what technology to choose and use so that students learn meaningfully. Okay, so I think I have to go a bit slower because there's a lagging in terms of internet connection. So, so as an educator, it is very important for us to identify which element that needs to be improved and support. Is this coming out, Dr. Rai, on the content, pedagogy, or technology?
Not yet.
Not yet. Oh,
Uh,
so it's a bit later.
okay.
Okay, but that one is nothing much on that one. It's okay. So, as mentioned by Yudakul, knowledge gleaned by the implementation of TPACK promotes the productive use of technology to increase the effectiveness and quality of instruction throughout the process of teaching specific content, from planning up until evaluating. So it's not just about teaching, but it is also about how to assess the students' understanding and evaluate, not just evaluating ourselves as an educator. I think it's like blurring now, the screen. The slide is that
Yeah.
clear.
No.
Okay. Is
No.
this
No.
better?
It's very good. Yeah.
Now, this one part of packing the TPACK. I'm not going to touch so much on that, but I would say that I don't want to ignore that because that is very important before we start looking into what is emergency remote teaching. We as educators, we need to reflect ourselves and unpack the TPACK model so that we know which area that need to be improved. And I think another important element in order for us to shift our mindset is also looking at the understanding the emergency remote teaching. Defining emergency remote teaching itself. As I mentioned in the beginning, that we have done a lot of online learning without the pandemic crisis itself. We have done online learning, we have done blended learning, we have done flipped learning. We also use technology with our students. But what makes it different now is we are now moving towards emergency remote teaching. What is ERT? ERT is a, as for now we call it as a temporary shift instructional delivery that involve fully remote teaching, meaning that there's no way for us to have face to face interaction with the students. We will be very difficult for us to blend, or it will be very difficult to have our students participation physically, and that is happening uh, still during the crisis, and probably will end when the crisis has abated. Okay, so some did actually text me and ask what is the difference between emergency remote teaching and online learning. What is the difference between ERT and distant learning? I would say that ERT is just because it is during the crisis. So we have to make ourselves sustain and able to survive in teaching by using ERT, meaning that when it comes to emergency, we do like everything to survive. Same goes to teaching and learning. We have to come up with anything as long as teaching and learning is happening. And I would also like to share this when we want to implement ERT. What are the things that need to be considered? We have to look in what internal and external resources were necessary. I mean, for as well as for the students, what are the internal and resources? What do we have? And also try to reflect. Maybe you need to list this down for you to come up with a better solution. Uh, what technology infrastructure that is sufficient for you to use and your students, and also our students to use what kind of infrastructure do they have, whether it is sufficient or it is insufficient. We have to somehow analyze the condition before coming up with the solution. And then how can we enhance opportunities for immediate and flexible learning demands? Because as for now they are at home, we have to also bear in mind that perhaps they have only one laptop and they have to share with a few siblings using one laptop. They also have probably brothers or sisters who are in school who are now using Google Classroom. And with that limited device or devices, how we enhance opportunities for flexible learning and to cope with the students' demand. And then it is very important to also identify where do students struggle. Is it the content part? Is it the technology part? Is it how we teach, the pedagogy part? So how can we adapt our processes in terms of our I would say operational definitions of what we are trying to deliver with the student. And I think the most important area also is the pragmatic outcomes. In order for us to have this ERT, we have to also bear in mind how do we want to make the students have this course completion rates. I think we have to also identify attendees. I mean, how many students are left behind? Because we want everyone at the end of the semester to be able to complete the course, and also have themselves evaluated and achieve the grades according to whatever is supposed to be measured. and now we talk about more of the pragmatic outcomes. So I think those are the most challenging part as an educator, because there are so many things that we need to consider. And talking about that, many of my friends, I would say from my own experience, do actually ask me, how do you overcome these challenges? I would say I don't actually have a plan, but it is always an analysis first before coming out with a solution. And I would believe that because I think for IPTA, we do have teachers perhaps in this room, but we have to somehow move from emergency remote teaching to rigorous online learning. If the pandemic crisis is still ongoing, we cannot say anymore as emergency. It's no longer emergency because by 4 months or by next month, you should not be planning anymore, and you should shift from ERT to I'll call it ROL, rigorous online learning. Okay, and yet I have yet to read on rigorous online learning, but I'm somehow foreseeing it this way. Uh, Everyone should not be planning anymore. It is no longer emergency, and now is how to make from emergency to rigorous online learning and make learning meaningful. And with that, it is very important for us to plan and strategize. Okay, I've read one article from Hodges et al. 2020, and I would uh, happily, I'm eager to share what they have come up with on how to plan and strategize our teaching and learning. Okay, so it's a bit, wait here. I'm dealing with the, okay, plan and strategize. So we will have to look at the pacing. Either we want to strategize our teaching and learning, we have to determine whether we want to have it like self-paced, or is it class-paced, or is it a combination of class-paced with some self-paced, or blend of both? So we want to, maybe we have undergraduates, we have postgraduate. So which one you think is the best for your students? You know better. And in fact, if we were to get the students to make the decision, they would very much appreciate that, because they are actually involved in the decision making. So you can also get some input from your students. And when it comes to pedagogy, you may either choose on expository, exploratory, or collaborative, or practice. So you have to identify now which pedagogy is suitable online to teach one specific content. And now I think we have also need to think of the role of assessment, because I think we usually think of it at the end. Because at the end of the semester, then how am I going to assess the students? Or perhaps you did ask yourself, but what we miss, or what we tend to overlook, is that how we make assessment as to determine if students are ready for new content. Wait, I think the slide is not coming out yet. Okay, so I think the first one is very important, because when it comes to remote teaching, when it comes to online learning, to make learning meaningful, I am reflecting myself. I tend to forget to determine students whether they are ready for the new content. So this is very important. This is to be done, I believe, weekly before we start with new content. And then assessment is not just having it summatively, but formatively, that we know where our student now. And another role of assessment is that it provides students or lecturers about the learning state. That's very important. What more if we use online, and we keep asking ourselves, are the students learning? Do they understand? Because when we ask questions, everyone was so quiet. Uh, we can see everyone's face very blur, just staring at the laptop, perhaps at the web, or perhaps they just turn off their camera and you cannot see them at all. So we have all kinds sort of questions Okay. And then only we talk the role of assessment as input to grade and also to identify students at risk of failure. This is very important because it is not at the end, but we have to identify those at risk from the beginning because the spirit is that we don't want anyone to be left behind. So emergency remote thing is all about. And we may also want to consider our role online. Either we are an active instructor online, perhaps there is a group of learners who need our presence all the time, especially the undergraduates. If you were to give them asynchronous, tidak segera, asynchronous a lot, there would usually doktor tak faham, doktor boleh tak? They need you, your presence as an active instructor online. Usually I have this experience this with my postgrad whereby they just need a small present online. If I were to check them whether they are good, they will say okay, don't worry, we are doing what we are supposed to do. And then if I ask them to update with their work and show me their progress, they are able to show. That means a small presence online is needed. So you have to identify your group, or else you'll be tired entertaining everyone needs. So it somehow helps you to plan your teaching and learning. And I'm not sure if there is a none role online, but I would say that perhaps the PhD students, maybe at the moment they just need you to check how are they right now currently. Are you okay? Are you fine? Are you in a good health? That's it. Otherwise, they want to do their own reading, and perhaps if they feel like seeing you, they will request. So it is very important to identify your role online. And don't forget, the student role online. How do you want them to be responsive of their learning? You have to make it clear to the students that I want you to listen, or I want you to read, and I want you to complete problems or answer questions. Or you want students to explore simulations, or you want the students to explore resources. So instruction has to be clear. Uh, Tell them what are they supposed to do, or tell them if you want them to collaborate with peers. So that is very important to identify the students' role online. Um, okay, and another part is that to identify which type of online communication synchrony that you want to implement. Either you want to have it like synchronous only, or you want to have it like asynchronous only, or it is a blend of both. This is also, I think, catered to specific group of learners. Some learners, they would, due to facilities and infrastructure, they may want to go opt for asynchronous, or perhaps some say blend of both because when they are not having good internet connection, they can just reflect whatever being shared or content by the lecturer or teacher. Okay, and also because it is online, it is also another problem. We tend to forget how to give feedback. Okay, so we have to check either we can have it like automated so that the students know the lecturer is reading their responses, or it's not about just handing in assignment or task, but they want to know either they are doing it correctly, they're on the right track. So how are you going to give the source of feedback? Are you going to go in and then reflect and give feedback one by one, or you want, if you think that you have no time, you have so many classes, you can also opt for peers feedback. So at least they have feedback, source of feedback. It's not going to be just one interaction, but what students need is that either whether they are doing things correctly or not. So that is very important. And this is, I would say, among the important elements that sustain online learning. The feedback is very important. And on top of that, we have to also consider the types of interaction. Um, sorry, either between it's a bit it's a laggy. Students and content, either students and student, or perhaps students and lecturers of interaction. We have to, although it is an online or remote teaching. Okay, the slide. Dr. Rai, I think the slide. Okay, right. Is this clear?
Yeah, can we just hang on to this for a couple of seconds because that one was missing just now. Yeah, brilliant.
There are three types of interaction that we need to consider: student and content, student, student teacher or lecturer. And sometimes when I have class, just sharing a little bit of experience. When I on the class, I tend to start like 5 minutes or 10 minutes later. I let them meet each other online because I think they do miss their friends and they want to interact. So that is somehow our nature as human. When you see people, you just let them. I would say, okay, just say hi to everybody, and I'll start after 5 minutes. So that is very important when it comes to types of interaction. And I think another part that most of the participants are waiting is on the digital tools for full online learning. If I were to talk about this, I would say this will take like one day, right? So I'm going to simplify this into categories. When it comes to digital tools for meaningful online learning, there are actually thousands of applications that you may use, and what most important is to identify based on your needs. Let me check whether this is clear. It's a bit like okay. So I have actually categorized them into a few categories. First thing first, I think what we need is the online class, and yeah, lagi. Okay,
Yeah.
so for the online class, what we need is that sorry, this is like combination of two slides.
Oh,
Yeah, wait, yeah, let me. Okay, all right. Okay, so it's either we can use Zoom. I think most of us are very comfortable of using Zoom, but we don't forget that we have also Webex that we are having right now. And then we have Google Meet, we have Microsoft Team, and we are very lucky thanks to pengajaran. A lot of training given on Microsoft Team, and also I would also like to send I would say thank you so much to Faculty of Education because we are sponsored with Zoom account. Every lecturer as for now, we just need to subscribe and we can just claim from our faculty. I think that is most important support from the faculty when it comes to this kind of emergency remote teaching. And I mean, apart from that, we should not give reasons because there are other free tools that we can use. Is either we can use Google Meet or we can actually just go live on Facebook if our students are comfortable. Just go live on Facebook or IG. Students are okay, they will get into it, and as long as they can see your face and can hear you, I think that what makes learning meaningful. And also they can have interactions in the comment section of the social network. And when it comes to collaborative learning, there are so many tools that we can use. These are among that I use actually. If you were to ask others, there are a lot. But I would say that among the tools that I use is Google Docs, Google Slide. I will ask students to, if they were to present anything, they can just use Google Slides so that they can collaborate among each other. And I also like to use Jamboard because Jamboard is like they just have like a mind of a very visual mind mapping. And Padlet, I think Padlet has been used like it's quite familiar among us. And I learned Satori from Associate Professor Dr. Sharul Mizan. He used Satori a lot, and I have ventured Satori, and I think I love it. I think you should also look into it on how to use Satori to allow students to collaborate in learning. And maybe some of us have forgotten that Canva is not just about infographic, but Canva can also be used as a collaborative platform, collaboration to collaborate. In fact, to come up with an infographic, they can collaborate with their peers and come up with one infographic. There is also another platform for collaboration, and I think we use Google is quite familiar. And those with iPad, and also I would like to thank our Faculty of Education because every lecturer was given an iPad. So I know. So
you people are spoiled.
so there's no reason for us not to explore. So I think those with iPad, you can also ask your students. Sometimes students do have iPad, so you can just ask them whether they can collaborate using iPad, regardless of pages, keynotes, or many native apps in iPad that can be used for collaborative learning. Okay, and when it comes to active learning and assessment, I combine both because some of you may rather use it as an active learning tools, and some would say you want to use it as an assessment. So apart from Mentimeter, I think Kahoot has been used a lot, and then I think Quizzes is getting more improved in terms of features that they have. Maybe you can check Quizzes. A lot of new features offered during this pandemic crisis. And then we have Quizlet. You can also use Google Form for assessment or Google Form for learning. And another platform or tool that I love to use is Formative, because with Formative, I can enhance PDF. So like one PDF, I can just insert in questions. So do explore Formative. And worst case scenario, you can use Telegram for you to have an active learning or assessment, or WhatsApp perhaps. And yeah, I have forgotten on online classes just now. You can also use WhatsApp call if you think that you have a very few students, because WhatsApp call, they have upgraded during this pandemic crisis. Before this, four person in one call. Now it's already 8. So if you have 7 students, including you, you can also use WhatsApp call if you think that it's convenient for the students. And in terms of assessment, you can also try exam.net when it comes to, usually we have problems when it comes to a subjective assessment, where students have to write reflection and so on. So try exam.net. And then I think there are a lot more and everything, but I just mentioned a few that I have tried out with my student. And also, as an educator at this during this crisis, I think it is very important for us to identify also tools for content creation or curation. It is not clear, Dr. Rai?
It's coming up. It's all right. Oh, I think we missed that one. We missed the slide before.
Okay, it's on content creation. Okay.
Now it's fine.
Okay, so we have hundreds. Have if you have iPad, you can just use the native apps in iPads where you can just screen recording and using your keynote. Or if you think that you are quite busy in your kids or everything, you can just use your mobile devices. They have screen recorder on mobile devices. It's either it is built-in apps or you have to install. Then we have Filmora, we have Screencastify, we have Screencast-O-Matic, which is very I think very famous. And then some would realize that PowerPoint, you can also record your presentation using PowerPoint. And then if you are advanced enough, you can try Cam Studio, and another one you can try Lasso Create. There are a few that you can try out when it comes to content creation. These are the tools. I'm going to share this later. Don't worry if you are not able to copy. And if I were to talk about postgraduate, even undergraduates, if we do have supervision with the students, these are among the tools that I have tried. I use Trello with my students, whereby we can just keep track students' progress from one stage to another. And I think all of us are very, very familiar with Google Docs, whereby you can use track changes to give feedback to your students. And believe it or not, I mark thesis using iPad as long as you need an iPad pencil. Okay, sorry, I'm not selling any iPad or pencil. You just need a pencil, iPad pencil, and then you just need an iPad. You can just mark your students' thesis. And if you think that you only have a device, you can also use your device with the pencil if you do have this is like Samsung Note. So again, there is no reason for us to check things, to conduct supervision online. And most important is that identify among all apps, identify whether you and your student, which state are you currently? Are you in the low bandwidth state? You may end up with using WhatsApp, Telegram, or you can just use podcast. If you are in a state of having medium bandwidth, you may go up to sharing content using YouTube. And you can also allow students for collaborative activities if they have a medium bandwidth. And if, of course, this is like too good to be true. If you have high bandwidth, you can end up with virtual classes or meetings, and then you can also do streaming with your students and Skype. Don't require high bandwidth. I would say that if you were to ask me practically, sometimes yes, I try virtual classes most of the time, but we do have challenges and problems. This getting disconnected and everything. So same what we are having right now on the lagging and everything. Okay, so it's 11:50. Perhaps I just want to share a little bit of my quaranteach story. I like this phrase quaranteach, even though we are not actually quarantined. It's like just a movement control order. You are restricted movement, but I love this phrase so much. Okay, so a little bit of my quaranteach story. What I usually do is when it first happened, I analyze the scenario by getting some data from my students. Perhaps if I can share this. Sorry for that. Okay, so I do ask my students first using Telegram. Just a simple poll and ask them which one do they prefer. So as what I have here, like some of the examples of questions I give them, I ask whether they can just complete learning tasks on online learning system, either more or you can follow and so on. And then based on the students' answer, then I can plan what to do. And if you can see that some I do ask on uh, whether the online learning is effective for gathering knowledge at this moment, because most of my students, especially the master students, they are from Sabah Sarawak, so they all sort of placed in Sabah Sarawak, which is very remote. Need to know whether they have problem accessing to the internet in finding information. And I also ask them whether they would prefer synchronous or asynchronous, and I do ask them whether they prefer to conduct online learning using open learning platform or instant messages or online meeting platform. So I'm giving them the options for them to decide for their own learning. So I will just accommodate and cater based on their needs. And I also ask students whether, because we never know, for us all online meetings are the same perhaps, but for the students they may prefer a particular tools. Like for example, I do ask them whether they prefer Microsoft Teams or do they prefer Zoom. I think they said Zoom would require a higher bandwidth as compared to Microsoft Teams. I'm not sure because so far I haven't have problem with them. But when it comes to Zoom, we do have a problem, especially when we turn on the camera. So what we did to overcome the problem is that as we have started our class, after 5 minutes, I told them to just turn off the camera so that we can run the lesson smoothly if everyone is presenting, so that we can reduce the bandwidth used by the students. So
Good
now
tip.
so we have
That's a good
some
tip.
help desk as well. Apart from, I think I have learned new knowledge in terms of technical software, hardware. So because we need to have solution there and then, we cannot rely on someone else when it comes to solving our problem.
Mhm.
So what was important in setting up my workstation and resources? I think that is very important. What happened?
Keep calm and quaranteach.
Okay. So keep calm. All right. So this is my workstation. I started with just a table with two devices, and then I bought a green screen. Everything is on my own money. Don't worry. I'm not using any source of income, but it's just my own money. I think it is like I need it. So I bought my own. I even bought a ring light. My children thought that I want to use it for TikTok. So it's actually for
Good.
learning. Yeah. Those are the things that I invest during this pandemic crisis. And I also identify my resources. I look into, I revisit my open learning, and I have to update, upgrade, and revise some of the content. And then, of course, not to forget UKM Folio. Thank you, pengajaran. Okay, we have to use UKM Folio as well. And apart from that, I have started to create content and share it on YouTube so that students are able to just look at it on YouTube. And when it comes to the implementation, I think what most important now is humanizing the technology. So we have to embrace, not just integrate, but embrace the use of technology. I mean, the technology itself. So these are among the phases that I have. They are so very happy because we want to make it leisure for them so that they don't feel pressure. They are already pressured with the situation, so we want to make them less pressured. These are undergraduates. These are my master students. So far we don't have problem of in terms of attendees, as long as they agree upon the time that we want to meet, so they can make prepare themselves. And these are among supervision that I have conducted online. And I think I want to share this. When it comes to humanizing technology, it's very important for us to be very flexible. I have for students who are actually a couple, a husband and wife, and
they're both your students?
yeah, they both are my students. So I have this view, which I believe is a very precious moment as we are teaching a lot of I think humanity in it. So we have to appreciate, we have to embrace all this for us to have a meaningful experience, not
Yeah.
just from the learner's perspective, but from the teachers or the educators' perspective. And I do a lot of interactive session with them, like for example, using Mentimeter, um, and these are among the activities. And I also mark their work on my iPad, so it feels the same as you are annotating it physically, and if you are annotating it using your iPad or phone. It's just the matter of getting ourselves comfortable. Perhaps at first, I think you may feel not comfortable of as compared to physical manually annotated on the hard copy. But as the time goes, you are going to be comfortable of using it. And so, okay, time flies, right? So I think what matters now is to have a shift in mindset. I think we have been supported a lot. Perhaps in terms of ourselves, we have to improve ourselves by reflecting on the TPACK model again. And then we have to also look at what are the facilities or support given by the institution. I think as for now, if we do have anyone from the management in this room, I would say please help the lecturers or help the teachers in terms of supporting them the facilities. I think that would be very much appreciated. And I think what we have now is that in my mind, we will get through this by seeing every challenge as an opportunity. It starts accepting the new paradigm. First, we have to accept. If we are still reluctant to accept it, it will be very difficult. You will have to accept the new paradigm and shifting our mind to what is right, what needs to be done, so that learning is not just happening, but also meaningful. That is very important. And I believe again, I would like to share this quote from John Wooden. It comes a bit later. Okay, don't let what you can't do stop you from doing what you can do. So that is very important. Sometimes we are influenced by those things that we cannot do, so it stops us from teaching. So, so don't don't let what you can't do stop you from doing what you can do. And I always believe this. Whatever we do, regardless of emergency remote teaching, online learning, whatever, we have to bear this in mind. Let our students make them have this experience, either hands-on, hands-on, minds on, and hearts on. So then only learning can be meaningful. Okay, so I think that's all from me, Dr. Rai. Perhaps I will share the slide later, as I think I'm going to pass the floor to you.
All right. Okay. Okay, mashallah, tabarakallah. Thank you so much. That was brilliant. I've got like pages and pages of notes. These are the things I look forward to when I get these kinds of conversations with such passionate educators such as yourself. We have lots of issues that you have presented, but I want to just get started with a question that we have on the Q&A section. So we have 141 participants, Dr. Harwati. So this is huge. For the participants, if you've got questions, please post them on the Q&A section. Sekiranya ada soalan, mohon saudara-saudari menaikkan soalan tersebut dalam section Q&A kita. Ya, dan saya akan soal Dr. Harwati. Alright, the first question we have is, the TPACK model that you shared, it feels like ages ago because we've come a long way with you on this journey, this last 45 minutes. So the question about the TPACK model, which level are we? How do we gauge? This is a very good question. Which level are we based on the TPACK model? How do we know this? Is there an instrument that we can gauge? Because that requires a lot of self-reflection as an educator. So what's your initial response?
I think this instruments in order for us to locate ourselves in which I would say in which part of the Venn diagram we can locate ourselves. But as for now, I think the best is to reflect ourselves by looking at the overlapping area. Whether because we know ourselves better. If we were to say that, maybe you can ask yourself a question: if I were to have this content, I have a suitable pedagogy to teach this content. If you are not sure, you can actually ask your students by the end of the lesson and get some of their feedback. So from their feedback, if you think that if they responded that they are not able to understand, or they think whatever they have learned is helping them, so that means we have to change our pedagogy that we have used. And also, you can also get some feedback from your students on the technology used to help them to uh, of the learning outcome, to reach the learning outcome. If you can just make a simple survey like using options, let them give the percentage. If they most of the answers like 50% and below, meaning that we have to look back on the technology part, we have to look back and on the pedagogy part. And we have to, with that, we need to also, from our perspective, we have to also uh, where did I go wrong? Why did I choose this technology, and what is it not effective to my learners? So it is more of for me of reflecting ourselves rather than like filling in survey, because when you do survey, is this is lack of what you call of critical thinking of what you are doing now. So I think the best is just reflecting ourselves, and I would say most of us believe it or not, I myself, reflecting myself, I would say not all pedagogy that I use is actually suitable for my learners, with which I thought it's supposed to be okay, but, but we have to bear in mind one size doesn't fit all. So I think that when I use it with undergraduates, I think that it should be okay with all classes. In the end, one class is okay, the other class, they, I would say they DM private message me saying that group members are not collaborating, they have problem getting responses from friends, how am I supposed to do? So in the end, I think, okay, so then you have to reflect, this is not effective with this group of learners. So I would say that is the most tiring part, because every time we finish class, like I myself, I will have to reflect what I have done today. So yeah, if you think that technology is your only weakness, most people says that I don't know a lot of application. For me, if you don't have knowledge of 1,000 application, it's okay, as long as you have one application that you think is suitable for your learners and effective in achieving your learning outcomes. So that what most important. You don't have to know like thousands of apps. Don't compare yourself with people who are very technology savvy, that they know a lot of things. So for me, as long as you know which app to meet which pedagogy, and then that is suitable to teach one content, that is good enough.
We have a question regarding technology that just came in. Online learning involves knowledge of IT, right? You would agree with that, right? Not everyone is interested in learning using online tools. So this issue of interest, right? So how do we overcome that? Not everyone's interested in it.
Yes, I do receive a lot of that kind of questions. How about those who are very traditional,
Mm.
who are not willing? I would say that if you are not interested in using any say high-end apps, using WhatsApp and Telegram, will you be having problem of using that too? If that is the case, you are in trouble. I would say, because we are only not really, no matter whether you like it or not. So you can't go away. You have to rely. If you think that the apps are too high end for you, opt for the low end. Start with what will you use the most is WhatsApp and Telegram. Uh, that is for you to start with. At least you start somewhere. Or if you think that you are not good at creating content, you can actually ask your students creative, because they ask your students to create some content. Perhaps you can help them to improve the content and then upload in YouTube so that everybody can use. If you think that you are not the type who is a content creator, so you have to find ways. We are not using the students, but perhaps that is one of the learning platform for them. Them to create content, and of course it's validated by the lecturer, and that makes it, and then that can be shared for the whole class. That I would say is more towards peer learning lah.
Okay.
So
That one is the buy-in. That the question just now was the buy-in in terms of the practitioner. Now there's a question that just came in also about the learner now, right? In terms of participation, berdasarkan pengalaman Dr. Hawati, bagaimana doktor menguruskan permarkahan bagi pelajar-pelajar yang tidak mahu melibatkan diri dalam pengajaran dan pembelajaran online? So now it's on the learner side. So how do you coax them into participating?
much problem with the students for now, but I would say that before deciding on how, I first have to ask them what is their problem. So we have to bear in mind we do have students who are from BIF group, and then as because I am also a TESOL undergraduate coordinator, so most of the students come to me and express their problem. So I'm looking at in a way how mom reflect their their children, and then and try to think of the best solution. As for now, of course kita bagi gula-gula dulu. We try to understand them, and then at one point kalau masih they don't cooperate, they are not interested in learning online with so much reason. So now is the rotan time lah. It's ideal we have to warn them, and also ask them to we have to warn them lah with that their grade will be affected. But alhamdulillah, for my students, they don't want rotan. Usually I ask them what's their problem, and then we try to solve problem together. It's more of this negotiation and discussion with the students that way, because yeah, I think there are a lot of reasons behind that we need to understand as a human, because now we are using technology, but one part which is humanizing the technology part, how to have humanity in using the technology.
Now my questions. I've got a string of questions because I love to ask questions. So please forgive me. So this is regarding the TPACK model. You know, on the outset, you talked about the TPACK model as a model that allows you to know what to teach and how to teach. Okay. What about the why? Does the TPACK model facilitate the why you teach? Is it there
Well,
in the in the overlapping?
yes, it's actually lies in every element because when we want to teach one specific content, of course, we decide how the content should be presented. And of course, we do reflect on what, why, how, which, uh, and the actually, I think lies in every aspect, either technology, pedagogy, or content. Because we need to also ask ourselves, why do I use these apps? Why do I use this pedagogy? So the why part is actually do what we call the fundamental part underlies in which elements in each element. Sorry.
Okay. And you know, when you were strategizing, you were giving us the strategies, you know, I loved it that you talked about pacing, you talked about pedagogy, you talked about assessment, you talked about the role of the instructor. And that was a light bulb moment for me. You know, you didn't call us teacher, you didn't call us educator, you didn't call us lecturer, you call us instructor. So that kind of got me thinking, like, what is our role now? Because at the beginning, on the outside of your presentation, you said when you were talking about the TPACK model, you said we need to have a quote unquote perfect command over the teaching content, which means we are the specialist. We are the quote unquote guru, if you like, of that subject matter. But then when you were strategizing, you were giving us various strategies on how to overcome this crisis that we are in the you know situation we're in. You talked about the role of the instructor. So what is our role in the current teaching and learning?
I would say we have, but there is a very good question. I think a lot of us are confused whether we are now teaching, we are now lecturing, are we facilitating, are we coaching, are we instructing? So there is a lot of hats changing of the role of
Yeah.
educator, I would say.
Yeah.
I would to use instructor because when it comes to online learning, the teaching part is where we deliver our content. But what happens most is when the students learn or experience their own learning on either self-paced or class-paced, is based on whatever we have instructed them. So I think a good an effective educator online, you also put your head as an effective instructor, because I think giving instruction is another skills, a set of skills
Right.
that educator need to improve. Because if you were to return back to your students and ask them, do you understand my instruction? And they will come back with a lot of questions. Do Well, actually, even if you have instructed them what to do, they still ask you, do we have to upload this on YouTube? Do we share this link with you? Do we have to paste it somewhere? Do we have to upload in UKM folio? That means instruction is not clear enough. And also, become an instructor, you also monitor rather than more of feeding your students on what to learn. If you put yourself as a teacher or as an educator, the students will rely too much on you rather than exploring what need to be explored in their own learning, because this is like a remote learning, remote teaching. Therefore, they will have to be responsible for learning. So the role of very important. So you have to keep changing head. Well,
Okay, so since we don't have any more questions coming in from the audience, I would like to just get Dr. Hawati to you know, say your thoughts in terms of the way forward, you know, as we move into, you know, the second half of 2020, being online, teaching fully online. What's your hope? What's your you know, kind of like aspiration for yourself as well as for your students? Where do you think you will go in terms of your own teaching approach online? And we will end
uh,
with that.
right. I think as for now, the best way forward is to just do it. If you don't start anywhere, if you think that you have a lot of things be improved and wait until you are trained to do
Mm.
so, then there will be too late. You have to start now. Talking about meaningful learning is not about just the learners. It, it is also reflecting ourselves as an educator. This is also the pandemic crisis also allow us some time for us to actually train ourselves, find new knowledge and everything. So I think if you were to ask me where to start from, how do I do it, I would say just do it. There's no other way to survive other than just doing it. You have to start somewhere. And again, I think I would like to just highlight this again. I've been holding to this when it comes to online teaching and learning, name it remote learning. I always hold to what I mentioned just now in my slide: hands on, minds on, and hearts on. Because there's so much of technology that we have forgotten to have some humanity with our learners. That is very important. That makes learning, not just learning, but life more meaningful, I believe. So a lot of love going on in our class. So we say, okay, show me some love like that. So
Yes, yes.
students are going to be very happy.
Thank you so much, Dr. Hawati. At the beginning, when I was introducing you, you said something about how, whatever it is that you're doing, actually doing this more by learning yourself in order to be able to teach. And at that moment, a quote that I read some time ago came to mind. We teach what we most need to learn. Richard Bach said this in his book. And I think if we all have that kind of an attitude where we do what we need to learn ourselves for our students, we learn first and then we kind of like help them learn. If we have that kind of an attitude, we continuously learn as a student and we become better teachers as well in so doing, So I just would like to thank you so much for this awesome session. One of the participants asked earlier on whether the slides will be made available. It would, but we have a poll that we would like you to take before we share the QR code. So Hashim, mohon share poll post webinar. It's just one question. It's a yes, no kind of a question. So you can easily answer this. Was the session beneficial to you? Yes, no, not sure. So,
Well,
just
Professor
I
Dr. Rai, I would like to thank pengajaran for giving me this platform to share. I feel very small, kecil sangat rasanya to do this sharing. But for the spirit of learning as well, so I hope that will be beneficial to everyone in the room. Inshallah. Thank you so much again for inviting.
On behalf of Pengajaran, Prof. Kamal is here, Associate Professor Dr. Azmin, Prof. Rosalie, Dr. Helmi, and our team, Hashim. Yes, we have our full house. Puan Sufira, Encik Hashim, who's hosting the webinar, and our team in Pengajaran. We would like to thank you so much for taking up this invitation and saying yes almost immediately when you were asked. So yeah, we are the blessed ones to actually enjoy this sharing session with you. So if you would like to share the QR code with us so that the participants can scan. For the participants, you may have the slides that Dr. Hawati shared with us just now by scanning the QR code on the screen.
So this is the slide. I'm sharing either the QR code or the link to the slide. So if you feel like sharing anything with me, you can always email me if perhaps any ongoing research. So feel free to email me. Thank you, Ajaran, Dr. Rai, Prof. Kamal. If you are there, I saw you. Okay. Thank you so much again. I'm sorry if I have a lot of weakness in my presentation. Segala kekurangan tu daripada saya lah, insyaAllah.